I never thought a simple Thursday morning could feel like the day the world quietly fell apart. My name's Ryan. I'm 37, and I've been married to Lauren for 12 years. 12 years of laughter, inside jokes, little weekend rituals, and 100 small ways we told each other, without words, that we belonged together. Or at least that's what I thought. That morning, I woke up to sunlight filtering through the blinds and the faint hum of our old coffee machine. Lauren wasn't in the kitchen yet, which wasn't unusual. She liked to linger in bed reading or writing in her notebook before the day started. I stretched, yawned, and shuffled toward the living room, only to find a crisp white envelope neatly placed in the middle of the coffee table. My heart skipped. It wasn't the usual mail. It wasn't bills or a letter from the school. The envelope had my name on it in Lauren's neat handwriting. Something about the way she'd written it, the small, precise letters, felt deliberate. Deliberate in a way that made my chest tighten. I picked it up and felt the weight of the papers inside. My fingers trembled slightly as I pulled them out. And there it was, divorce papers. The kind of thing you see in movies or hear about on the news, but never expect to happen in the quiet, ordinary rhythm of your own life. The top page was neatly typed, formal and stark. Petition for dissolution of marriage, effective immediately upon signing. I remember staring at it for a long time, letting my mind drift through every memory we had. Our first date at that little Italian place in downtown Denver where she'd spilled marinara sauce on her blouse and laughed so hard I thought the whole restaurant could hear us from the street. The time we got caught in the rain on that camping trip in the Rockies and ended up dancing under the tent to the sound of raindrops on canvas. And yes, the fights too, the petty ones about laundry or dishes, but nothing that had ever seemed unfixable. I sat down on the couch holding the papers like they were some foreign object, some test I hadn't studied for. I could hear Lauren moving around upstairs, humming softly. My mind raced. Was this a threat? A prank? Was she serious? My stomach churned. But beneath the fear, beneath the panic, a small, stubborn part of me, one I didn't even know was still alive, began to feel something else. A sense of clarity. Maybe it was the absurdity of it all. Or maybe it was 12 years of knowing her, loving her, living in a rhythm that was hers as much as mine. But in that moment I realized that whatever her intentions were, whatever she had hoped to achieve by scaring me, it wouldn't work unless I let it. I flipped the papers over, scanning the lines for some kind of loophole, some mistake. There wasn't one. It was perfectly drafted. And knowing Lauren, she had left them there with the precision of someone who had thought about this moment for days. A strange calm settled over me, as if the storm I'd been bracing for was already here, and I could finally decide how I wanted to face it. I picked up a pen from the side table, the metal cool in my hand. Every instinct told me to hesitate, to wait for a confrontation, to demand a conversation. But then I remembered every time we had avoided confrontation before. Every passive-aggressive note left on the fridge, every silent treatment that stretched for days. I realized that sometimes the boldest move isn't yelling or pleading. It's doing exactly what's expected, but in a way that surprises everyone, including yourself. I began to sign the papers slowly, deliberately, each stroke of the pen echoing in my head like a countdown. 1 signature, my name flowing onto the dotted line. 2. Almost ritualistic. I paused before the final page, inhaled deeply, and then finished. A strange combination of liberation and dread washed over me as the ink dried. I placed the papers back on the table exactly where I had found them. My heart was still racing, but my hands weren't shaking anymore. I heard Lauren's footsteps descending the stairs. She entered the living room and for a split second she froze, her eyes locked onto the papers, then flicked up to me. "Ryan," she whispered, a note of disbelief in her voice. I didn't say a word. I just gave her a small, quiet smile. Not triumphant, not cruel, just calm. And in that moment the atmosphere in the room shifted. 12 years of tension, unspoken resentments, small misunderstandings, and half-formed arguments seemed to hang in the air like dust motes in sunlight. Her lips parted, then closed. She blinked rapidly, and I could see the flicker of something she hadn't anticipated. Shock, confusion, maybe even fear. Whatever it was, I realized something vital. I was no longer playing the game. I had recognized the stakes, understood her strategy, and made my choice. And that choice wasn't about winning or losing. It was about reclaiming my own agency. Lauren opened her mouth again, hesitated, then closed it. I could feel her emotions, intense and raw, but I remained silent. I simply sat there, letting the quiet stretch between us, each second charged with an attention that wasn't anger, but awareness. Lauren finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. You signed them?" I nodded slowly, meeting her eyes without flinching. I did. For a moment the room felt like it was holding its breath. The clock ticked loudly. The hum of the coffee machine was almost deafening. Lauren sank into the armchair, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "I didn't think you would. I thought you'd argue, beg, maybe even yell." I let a small ironic smile cross my face. That's exactly what I didn't do. I realized something this morning. All the arguing, all the pleading, all the late-night fights, it never fixed anything. Just kept us in the same cycle. I didn't want to play that game anymore. Her eyes welled up, and I saw a flicker of something I hadn't expected. Guilt. Not the dramatic movie-style kind, but the messy, real kind that hits you in the chest and makes you question every choice you've made. Lauren's shoulders sagged, as if the weight of the years had finally landed on her. And for the first time in a long while, she looked small, vulnerable, human. I thought this would scare you into noticing me again," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I wanted you to fight. I wanted you to show me that I mattered." I leaned back slightly, keeping my tone calm but steady. "Lauren, I did notice you. I've always noticed you. But noticing isn't enough when the other person doesn't feel it anymore. I've spent years trying to fix things that weren't broken for me. They were broken for you. And maybe in a way for both of us." Her lips quivered, and she looked down at the papers once more. I didn't mean for it to come to this." I shook my head gently. "Neither did I. But here we are. And now instead of fear or anger I feel clarity. Freedom even. Not because I want to be away from you, but because I finally understand that staying in a loop of manipulation or unspoken resentment doesn't honor either of us." Lauren sniffled and wiped at her cheeks. The vulnerability in her posture made her look years younger. Somehow I noticed details I hadn't seen in a long time. The little freckles on her hands, the curve of her smile when she was nervous, the way she bit her lip when she was anxious. All of it reminded me that the woman sitting across from me was still the woman I had married. Complicated, beautiful, human. She started, then paused, struggling to find the words. "I was trying to get your attention. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect you to just sign them." "I signed them," I said softly, "because I wanted to take control of my own choices. Because I finally realized that pretending to play along with a game doesn't make either of us happy. You wanted me to act scared or desperate, and I chose to act clear-headed instead." There was silence for a long moment. I could hear her breathing, shallow and hesitant. Then she said something that surprised me. I think I misjudged you. Not that you don't care. I didn't think you'd have the courage to be calm. I thought you'd react like I imagine everyone reacts." I smiled faintly, feeling the tension in the room soften. Courage isn't about yelling or fighting. Courage is about knowing what's right for yourself and sticking to it, even when emotions are high and expectations are low. I realized that today. Lauren leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly, her hands finally relaxing. And for the first time in months, the energy between us wasn't a silent battlefield. It was a fragile truce, but a real one. A space where honesty could exist without manipulation. She glanced at the papers again, a small rueful smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I didn't think it would feel like this. I don't know. I thought signing them would end you. Or maybe me. But it didn't. It changed something instead." I nodded. "It changed clarity. Not just for you, for me too. For the first time in a long while, I know exactly where I stand. And maybe that's what we both needed. A moment to see ourselves clearly without fear or pressure or expectation." Lauren laughed softly, a little embarrassed, a little relieved. "You always did have a way of surprising me." I shrugged lightly, still smiling, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. "And you never thought I would, huh?" "No," she admitted, shaking her head. "I didn't. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's the only way we'd finally see each other as equals again, even if it's just for a moment." I took a deep breath and let it out slowly, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. 12 years, countless arguments, countless compromises, And in the end, it took one simple act, signing the papers, to break a cycle we didn't even realize we were trapped in. Lauren looked at me one last time, eyes soft and serious. Whatever happens next, thank you for being honest and for being calm. I needed that more than I realized. I nodded once, letting the words settle between us. The divorce papers still sat on the table, signed, real, undeniable. But in that quiet room, they didn't feel like the end. They felt like a beginning. Not necessarily a beginning together. Not necessarily a beginning apart. But a beginning of clarity, truth, and honesty we hadn't had in years. And in that clarity, in that silence, I realized something I had forgotten. Sometimes the most radical act of love isn't fighting to hold on. It's knowing when to release, when to step forward with clarity, and when to finally see the world with eyes unclouded by fear, resentment, or expectation.